Hi, this is Christina and this is Liberate the Podcast, where we educate, motivate, inspire, and liberate your consciousness. So we have some of the most interesting, unique, and amazing meditations, I think, in the world. I mean, we have past life regression meditations, guided hypnosis meditations, Akashic record meditations, as well as healing meditations. Our meditations are pretty cool. And they're not just about stillness of mind and peace and sit there. I mean, we have those too. Don't get me wrong, but these are about meditations that are going to shift and change, and you're going to walk out of there feeling lighter, freer, healed, and even getting guidance and insight. So come down, experience one of our meditations. They're pretty badass. Hi there, welcome to another episode of Liberate the Podcast. Today we're bringing on a guest that we've had in the past, and we've talked about past lives before, but we're going to dive in a little bit deeper with Jeroen today about past lives, healing, and his personal healing journey, and so much more in depth on many different things. So if you love this podcast, go back. There's an audio one about 2 years ago. We did one, and that's really the nuts and bolts of what past life regression is. So welcome back.
Thank you. It's great being here again in your beautiful new studio. I'm so excited to be here again.
Now it's visual, so you get to see them. You don't just get to hear them. So Jeroen, I want everybody to know a little bit about you.
All right.
Yeah, like the Cliff Notes version. Then we're going to do deep dives.
Okay, so my name is actually Jeroen, and I'm from the Netherlands. So my name sounds a little weird because we do funny names in the Netherlands. It's actually quite a common name. It's like John or Peter. It's actually the Dutch version of Jeroen. I moved to the States, to LA in 2007, and I was trained by Dolores Cannon in her method for past life regression, Quantum Healing Hypnosis technique. And I've been practicing since 2006, and my practice is here in LA in the Valley. This is where I see people every day and guiding them through some very amazing past life journeys. That's just incredible. And I mean, this is, some people do past life regression like on occasion, but this is what you do. So you've seen so many different people and taken them through these regressions. And, so from your perspective, there's probably so much that you've picked up on and seen the similarities and the just kind of like proof without a doubt, right? After so many cases. How many people do you think you've seen over the years? It's really going up to about 1,000 now.
Wow.
Yeah. So I see one person a day, and in the beginning when I started, it was a slow trickle, and then I went full time, I think in 2016, and so then it started.
Well, even more than that. Sometimes once a month he does a meditation here, and those ones sometimes 20 people come. And so those are doing bigger scale regressions on a lot of different people. So they're all having their own individual experience through that group-led method, but you're still taking 20 people at a time through a regression, so those numbers could be even more than that.
Exactly. I love doing those. Those group sessions are amazing. Yeah, this because people learn so much when they're sharing about their experiences. People can listen to each other and then learn from other people's experiences and make it less weird for themselves, because what I get a lot is like, oh, that was weird when they come out of it. Yeah.
Well, anything that's new and different, people automatically put that label on weird because it's not something that they've been exposed to, right?
And it's not a bad weird. It's like, wow, they never imagined it.
It's like a weird and this is cool, I'm going to tell 10 friends.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that.
So going through the process, what got you started in wanting to even learn about past lives and then one, learn about past lives, be curious in past lives, and then two, to take the trainings to study to do it for others?
So I've kind of sailed outside of the system my whole life. I always looked into society from the outside in. I never felt like I fit in. And so going through the school system, I dropped out at 16. I couldn't find myself in the kind of educational system that I was in, and did an alternative school. And then, I don't know, I've always known that there was more to life than what we were being shown in our society. I was always looking for the unseen worlds. I kind of knew it was there. And the best connection I had to it was like reading fantasy or science fiction novels. And then my mom was a librarian, and she brought home a book from the Monroe Institute regarding out-of-body experiences. I was 8 years old and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is really what I believe to be true.
Nice. No, wait. Let's backtrack a little bit. Did she bring home that book for you, or she brought it home because she was interested in it and you grabbed it and you started reading it?
It was an odd thing because my mom she doesn't talk about any of this stuff.
Okay.
And so she was a librarian, and so she must have read plenty of other stuff, and she was like, oh, why not try this one? And I'm not sure she even remembers that book. It was life-changing for me because it affirmed what I kind of knew was true for me.
Yeah.
It was different from the religion that I was raised in. And so finding this proof, it kind of helped me to propel forward with the belief that there was something more out there that was really true, but I just hadn't seen any proof of it. Then when I picked up a book by Dolores in 2006, a book called Custodians, and read it just from cover to cover really quick, just dove right into it, and it just really resonated with what I believe to be true. Then I found out that she was teaching in the Netherlands. 3 months later, I was able to join her class, and so this little old lady with a little perm came to The Hague. That's where the class was, and I was taught her technique.
That's great, and it's interesting, like. So many people that I interview, and when I hear like how they got on their path of where they got to, it's these little things, and it's true of anybody, whether it's a spiritual path or an entrepreneur path or, even just a life direction or a soulmate, whatever the case may be. But there's like these little planted seeds that happen through our life. And it's like this book when you were 8 that started opening up your mind in more ways and made you feel validated and in your beliefs,
right,
to, stumbling upon this book in 2006 or not stumbling upon it, being divinely orchestrated.
Right.
And then just 3 months later, having the very person that wrote the book be in your country to teach.
Crazy,
and it's just like those types of synchronicities, and but giving it to you for taking those leaps, right? And saying, okay, yeah, this is curious, yeah, this is interesting, no, I'm going to just dive in,
right?
And so then you learn the technique, and while you learn the technique, was that the first time you were regressed? Because I know during trainings that you tend to get experimented on, right, as you're going through it, working with your fellow classmates. So
yeah, now that is, but in 2006 the class curriculum was a little different.
Okay.
So we watched like a demo session.
Okay.
Like you said, now it is that you get the experience, but I throughout the years I've gotten regressed like 8 or 9 times.
Okay.
By my colleagues, just to feel what it's like to get that part of the experience.
Wow. So when you got trained, you still hadn't even experienced regression for yourself.
No.
Wow.
No. I mean, I was trained as an art therapist at the time, so I had a BA in art therapy, and I worked with one-on-one with people, and that was the eligibility requirements at the time to be taught by Dolores, that you had to be working with people. So I knew what it was like to be in a therapeutic setting or a therapeutic relationship. But yeah, the experience itself, I didn't have that until a couple months later.
And what was your first experience like when somebody regressed you?
I think it was, I've had so many and I can't really put them on a timeline, but there was one where I connected with a part of me that was in the Pleiades, the Pleiadians.
Okay.
And, it was saying that I was here to help raise the frequency. There was detail to it that I forgot about because I get so many stories now, every day that it kind of becomes a little mushy in my brain. Like I can't really pinpoint what was what. But yeah, there was this Pleiadian part of me that said that I'm here on the planet to help raise the frequency of consciousness. And, this is nothing special because we're all here now to do this. Well, as the people that are seekers that are seeking for, for this kind of material.
Yeah. And so that brings me kind of to the next question of when do people seek out, getting a past life regression?
Good question. So the people that I find on my path that I resonate with, that find me, it's mostly about unlocking authenticity, and it's usually packaged in a questioning about what is my life purpose. That's the biggest question that people come in with.
Okay.
And it's usually formulated from a place of being stuck with it. So kind of being stuck in life. Maybe there's a job or no job that doesn't quite fit what they feel themselves to be, and they don't quite know how to move on from there. And so what I find is what's happening is that through the work that we do, it's like people, it's like they ignite their own self-worth in knowing that, you know, what they've been dreaming of, the life that they know to be true, or what they already know is inside of them, to give themselves permission to go after that instead of being fed into what they think society wants of them. And that's always a very beautiful moment when that can happen, when I see people like pop open.
That's great. So do you do like future regressions then too, or like future projections as well for people?
So I don't, like in this technique, we don't tell people what to go look at. It's just we create an opening to their higher self.
Okay.
And then it will provide the most appropriate experiences. I never know, you know, what I'm going to be looking at. So oftentimes it is what we call like a past life, but oftentimes it can also be future or parallel lives.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, or lives in different dimensions, different planets. And really what we're finding out about is that there is no such thing as time from the perspective of the soul. But that just the 3D construct that we're living in right now. We need time here to be able to learn what we're here to learn.
Gotcha.
But that from the perspective of the soul, it's almost like, it seems that as if we're, as a sort of more or less individuated part of source, we decide to split into different experiences that sort of happen at the same time. So my human mind doesn't really understand, like, you know, how to make that make sense in my brain, but yeah, that's the best model that I use for this to understand it. So yeah, you can have parallel lifetimes, past lives, future lives, and it's really all the same thing. We just like to differentiate.
So it's all just on one continuing like spark of energy, and it's just whether they perceive that as the past or the future or a different dimension. Yeah,
from a human perspective, it might look like it's on some kind of timeline, but from the perspective of the soul, it's all happening now. Yeah.
Okay. So then that gets me, like, most of the time when people think of past life regression, they literally think about going and experiencing some type of, I was in the 1400s and I was this blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
Do those kind of things happen too?
Oh yeah, often. I mean, it's kind of the bulk of it. So, It covers the experience a little bit, past life regression, but not completely. So Dolores calls it quantum healing hypnosis technique for that reason.
Okay.
That we're going into the quantum field or the soul or higher self, and then it'll bring forward what's the most appropriate. And it's not always what, you know, a neatly packaged past life. It can be, you know, one scene from a past life, then future life, different dimension, different galaxy, or just like general blobbiness. Like sometimes, you know, we're in a space where there's just like colors or blobs or energies. It can, you know, it can make a lot of sense, and it can make no sense at all to our human mind.
Interesting. And then maybe at certain times in different periods, those same things that didn't make sense start to make sense at different occurrences in one person's life, right? You know, like if somebody sees this red blob and then like later they like realize that red blob was this, you know, or whatever it might be.
Oh yeah, so we do get to find out what it means because in a session, first we explore these different lifetimes, and then in Dolores' technique, she found out that there is this healing component that happens. And so she modified the technique that she'd been taught to accommodate for this. So we directly call forward a person's higher self, and we ask it questions first about the randomness that they were shown, like weird scenes or whatever was going on, because we might not always understand from a human understanding what was the healing component. Like, why were you shown such random scenes? Maybe, you know, you find yourself herding some sheep and on the side of a mountain in the south of France in the medieval times, and nothing much happens. Like, how does that relate to your life right now? Yeah. And then I asked the higher self, okay, what was the point of showing them this? And it might have been about simplifying their life, or maybe they felt very much on purpose to give them experience of that, or to connect with nature. It can be all kinds of things, and you won't find out until you talk to the higher self, and it talks back and says, this is why this was. And then, you kind of find out what that is.
So the whole process takes you through these different experiences from the soul's perspective of what's needed to help move that individual soul's life forward in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
And sometimes that can be, things that are obstacles or pains or difficulties from the past life, like people perceive, right? Like oftentimes you hear about, I was stabbed and murdered with a sword and it went through my heart and now I can't love. Like you hear these like stories, but what I'm pressing on really and kind of diving the point home, but it's so much more than that.
It is.
And it can give people this ability to really connect with what it is that will help them feel more satisfied, more whole, more complete. And it sounds like it's almost like bringing those parts of their soul, that fragmented soul, back together.
Yeah, that's really what I think it is. So using that model that I explained where our soul splits off in different experiences. So during a session, it's like you're bridging into another experience to get the resources that you need for this lifetime. It's like with your little shopping basket, you're going, gather different parts of it.
And simultaneously, you're healing that lifetime too. Because if you're putting a bridge, I'm guessing that it's, it's going both ways. So it's not just one direction.
Yeah, and sometimes it really shows that way because sometimes you're in a different lifetime and then there might be other beings there or the people there and you can interact with them in real time. So let's see, the most recent one that I remember was a person who, they had a Sasquatch experience and there was lots more to it, but I started talking to this different part of her that was Sasquatch in a different dimension. And I started describing, what the dimension was like and what life was all about. That happens quite often.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then what did that person take away for the meaning for them for this lifetime?
I gotta remember that. See, I don't hang on to those details, but
do you remember the Sasquatch?
Because that was the first time that I really spoke to a Sasquatch, and it corrected me actually because apparently they call themselves Hulu men.
Oh.
When I talked about Sasquatch with the higher self, I was like, oh no, that's not the term. It's Hulu men. Never heard of it. Yeah, but what she took away from it, I don't. I think, if I remember correctly, it was more about her connection to nature and to validate it for herself. I remember now. It was the healing capacities that the Sasquatch being had, this Hulaman being, and why they were so present in her life right now. That there was a direct link to that lifetime for this purpose that she was bringing in these healing capacities for her life right now. That's what I remember, yeah. I'm really proud of myself now that I remember that.
So you didn't dive into the details and then that was all there.
Right.
Now, have also like in, past life regressions, and there's been a few documentaries that have been done recently that really kind of take the experiences of a few children that vividly recall lifetimes and characteristics and even names and people that they interacted with and what they exactly did. Do you ever do any regressions like that?
Sure.
Okay. Do you have any stories?
Any fun stories? Yeah. I don't work on children because I work with adults only because there needs to be like a self-reflective capacity, and but it can be adults that go to past lives where they know names and years and verifiable content can come in during a session. So I've spoken about this in other podcasts and interviews, but of course, the biggest case that I was part of was what's made into a book called "The Boy Who Knew Too Much" by Kathy Bird. Mm-hmm. She came into my office with this amazing story that her kid told her that he used to be a tall German baseball player. And in the beginning, she didn't believe that anything else but imagination was, coming out of this kid, until she realized that the amount of detail and the experiences that they had together when she took him to a baseball stadium, and the little boy had a freak out when he watched a giant poster of Babe Ruth and said, that guy was really mean to me. We had a fight and he was a mean guy. To the point where she had to take him away from that situation because he was losing it. She realized that there was more to it, and her kid, Christian is his name, had told her that she used to be his mom in that past life, but that he liked her now better as a comment. She was a more fun person now. But so she was from a Christian background, had no context for past life regression. And one of her friends had done a session with me. She came to see me, Kathy Bird, and I told her about that to everybody. This is about healing. I help you create a stronger opening to your higher self, and we'll see where it takes you. I can't guarantee that you're going to go see that live.
Yeah.
And so, but we did go into a lifetime. I remember taking her through the induction, and she started describing that she was sitting on a couch. She knew she could see the pattern of the couch and the carpet and like a covered over bird cage and a little dog. Hey, Chewy. Was sitting right beside her. Her body was a little bit more plump. She described her clothing as, obviously from a different era. And gradually the image opened up into a working class environment on the East Coast in the last century. And, her session was very detailed, and this doesn't always happen, but she knew names of her family members, and she could describe like tchotchkes that she was given or awards from her son, Lou Gehrig, in a very detailed manner. And she came back 2 more times, and we will go back into the same lifetime. And this is extraordinary. I've never had this happen since so far. So I asked her higher self, like, why are we having to go back into the same lifetime? And it said that she was to sort of mine those experiences for verifiable details that she had to go and fact check with still living descendants and relatives to add a layer of credibility to the subject of past life regression, and then write a book about it. And so she went to the East Coast and introduced herself as this sort of, crazy lady from California, I suppose, that had these experiences, and could she fact check those experiences? And somehow she did this, and it all matched. And so she wrote a book about it. She won the Hay House writing contest, and it was published, and it's in the works of being made into a movie. Wow. So that's the biggest one. But the most recent one was also very interesting. And I mentioned this in the Deep Cuts episode in Liberate, a lady that came in who had a question about her dad in her current lifetime, because they weren't in each other's lives until she was 19 years old. She wanted to know if there were any connections in different lifetimes. And so I asked her higher self, and it said, well, they were together in the Renaissance. I was like, okay, what about some detail here? Can you explain what was the relationship and where were they? And so her higher self says, oh, well, she was Michelangelo. The Michelangelo, and it volunteered immediately. And, I was gay, he was gay, and had lots of lovers, but her dad from her current lifetime was his longtime assistant. And, it's not always a good idea to ask about numbers and names, because it can sort of jolt people to go back into the left side of their brain and kind of pull them out. Yeah. But this lady, she was in a sufficient place of trance where I could try this and see what would happen. She was really easy in switching back and forth. And so I asked her, do you know his name? And so she could hear it, but she couldn't quite spell it. So I had her spell it to me letter for letter. And she spelled me a name that was spelled P-R-I-E-T-R, sounding like Piotr, which sounded more like Slavic or Russian than Italian to me. And so she leaves, and I go do my Google, and
my Google.
And so I find this little paragraph that says that Michelangelo had a longtime assistant whose name was Pietro Urbino. So that's super close. It was 1 or 2 letters, switched around. And so, so I tend to believe that she really experienced a lifetime as Michelangelo. And that was really amazing. Then, go ahead.
No, do you see that that sometimes, we have a lot of, as humans having these life experiences, we tend to have a lot of unfinished business, or difficulties or unfinished lessons and learnings. A lot of times people are stubborn and they don't want to see how things are there to serve them, and they easily map into the victim mode and place blame on everybody instead of being like, oh, this experience, or me getting fired, or me going through this bad divorce, or me doing this, is actually to serve me in some level, so I'm grateful for it and so I can move forward. But a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of these wounds that are so like hard because there's an expectation and and that expectation breeds the suffering and unnecessary suffering. But people can take that from these other lifetimes or other experiences and still be carrying those wounds.
Yes.
Do you find that a lot of people have that sometimes in some of the regression work, since yours is all about healing?
Yeah. Yeah, of course that happens. I want to make a connotation to that because a lot of people take that, make it kind of like it's a wrongness in their life. Like, like the example that you mentioned, I've been stabbed in the heart, so I don't know how to love. Okay, that's my story.
Yeah,
and that's
but there is no like bad. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no bad to it. It's just like, okay, so maybe that actually created you to have this, you know?
Thank you. Yes. I find it is really that way. So we are part of a benevolent universe and we've all chosen this experience. Even if you subscribe to the thinking that we're on a prison planet and we're just being recycled over and over, it's still a decision that you took as a soul to go into the system and to be part of it and to have these experiences. With the example that you gave, if that comes forth during a session where the higher self tells me, okay, so they had this experience in a past life and it's unfinished or it's part of their experience in their current life right now and it can be healed or whatever, I always ask about what's the purpose of bringing something from a past life into the current lifetime. Is it a flawed system? You know, doesn't it work? Why would you do that? And it's always, I think, or 99% of the time, it's being sort of taken from that past life in the current lifetime to help learn a certain thing in the current lifetime. So it's not like you're impaired and you've gone off the path and there's this wrongness about it. It is part of your life path right now. So it's not just the good things that we pull from other lifetimes, but also what we would, from the human perspective, call the bad things. Yeah. But it's all to propel us forward.
So it's like if you're carrying those extra weights on your, like, let's say a metaphoric weight, like a metaphoric backpack of all these things that weighed you down in the past life.
Yes.
It's to make you physically stronger in this lifetime and get to the point where you can break free of the backpack and you have these built muscles that can propel you forward. And some kind of weird metaphor, you know. I mean,
it's really good. Yeah.
You know, like, so instead of being like, oh God, I was born with this handicap because I had this unfinished baggage or luggage or whatever in the past life and now I'm weighed down, it's actually really much a strengthening process. It's to propel, to evolve, to...
Yeah, and there's really purpose to all of it. What I'm finding, you know, and that can sound really shitty if you're in a really sucky situation. We all have them. I mean, with my own history, I've certainly been in very challenging places in my life. But looking back, it all allowed me to embrace who I am even more so after going through it and looking back at it. I mean, not while I'm in it, like, oh, I'm good, I'm embracing myself, but it was a nightmare, you know. But
it's hindsight's 20/20, right?
Yes, of course, yes. So, but everything that is scripted. That's what I hear over and over when I ask about people's horrible experiences. Oh yeah, they came to the planet and they've had like horrible experience that you cannot imagine, the horrible lives. They were just doing this because they came straight from the angelic realms and they needed like to fast track experiencing the human experiences so they could be relatable and feel compassion for the human experience.
Interesting.
That is often being told to them. Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of the people that I work with that have these horrible experiences, they are here to anchor like a very, very refined high frequency. And it's through these experiences of like sheer horror that they kind of learn how to anchor them, like what the earth experience is about. So then other people can relate to them. They hold that vibration of knowing what it is to go through the experiences.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a firm believer. It doesn't mean that everybody needs to suffer in any way, shape, or form, but that, you know, you need to understand, you know, at least have an awareness of what it's like to walk in another's shoes in order to relate to them on some level, right? You know, like you can't like help somebody cope with a broken heart if you've never had a broken heart, right? You know, because you don't even understand it, right? And so that's an interesting, fascinating type of perspective that it's, you know, kind of new to me, of that these could be angelic realm beings that are fast tracking of human experience, having the massive polar opposite of experiences so they can understand, okay, now I get suffering because I've got it to the nth degree, you know?
Yeah, and it's useless when you tell somebody, of course, it's not your place to tell them in their face, like, oh, you're just going through this purposeful, so you're learning something. From the human,
like, screw you.
Right, of course. I mean, I would not accept that if somebody would have.
I watched somebody get murdered in front of me. Screw you.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. So, but it's not from the human perspective to try and sort of make it okay that you're suffering, but it's more in hindsight of once people click into their life purpose, to look back and to understand what the path was about, and that the journey is, it's all about the journey. Because, I mean, we certainly find ourselves in places where it's just horrible and we just want to find the off switch, you know, where we can just get out of this and be healed and be in our full power and be fully empowered. And the next day, you know, or through a session, but what keeps coming forward, that the information that we gather in this journey, going step by step, allows us to get to know ourselves as God, source, creator, doing the Christina experiences or the Jeroen experience. So it's to encountering your own uniqueness in the doing of this process, that you gather very specific information that no one else can gather because they're not you.
Yeah.
And once you do that and you learn to validate your own experience, your own truth over the truth of the world that you might have been conditioned to believe is your highest truth. Yeah. Once you learn to detach from that and trust your own experience and embrace who you are here to be, you're starting to experience the rewards of it, which are knowing that you are a unique expression of source. And then what that brings is more trust in yourself, and that is trust in God, source, creator, and in life, because then you know that you're just here for a short time, just affecting change, sort of playing this game with people. So then it's okay to be here. So a lot of people now, they just, or people that come into my office right now, they say, just fix me so I don't have to come back. But from my perspective, it's all about choosing to be here. And again, this is a journey as well. This will come after you learn to validate who you are, your own unique expression, what makes you tick. Once you start doing that, then you inch back into, or you lean back into the experience of knowing that you're God, much like you had when you were a baby. When you look into a baby's eyes, you can see this. We know what we are when we're fresh arrivals on the planet. Yeah. We're a part of source of God, you know, anchored in this little baby's experience. And then most of us, I think, go through the experience of not being seen for this, and not being treated like, what are you here to bring, or who are you? But instead, look, child, here's society. You're going to fit into these molds that we have ready for you. And the messaging that happens is that there's something wrong with you. Yeah. Because you have to work to fit into something else. Yeah, so I'm not okay. You know, I'm not good enough, and all those little core wounds that people carry around, and then they build their whole story and life around it, because we have an incredible mechanism of seeing what we believe. Yes. And then we continue to validate, because we seek out the information that supports, I'm broken, I'm not okay, I'm this, here we go again, look at, see, they spoke to me this way, or this kid didn't want to play with me, that's another validation, see, I'm not okay, right? Before we know it, we're all screwed up. And that's also okay, you know, to go through that. But I think it's part of the divine plan, right? Because you have to be like, it's like, you know, if every single person goes through the same type of feeling, that they realize that they're all perfect, right? And then they realize that they don't think that they are perfect, and then they go through a life of healing and uncovering their true self and identity again. And it's the story of humanity, and it's the growth, and there's different experiences along the way, but it's almost, it has to be set up that way. We have to forget how magical and divine we are in order to find that special uniqueness in divinity again, and to appreciate it. That's so well said. Yes, it's like, I mean, it's the same as when we play a board game. You know, we set up rules that sort of confine our movement within this game, and that makes it fun. You know, from our perspective, looking at the game, because then we have to use our creativity to get around these rules and to come out of this game. And that's kind of like how I see it. That we're all facets of Source. That we're all God incarnate in a human body, doing itself in your uniqueness. So it's all about, for me, I call it to fly your freak flag, and to be seen as your unique expression of Source, instead of fitting into what society might have laid out for you.
Yeah, because then you get to have the next chapter of experiencing, so you go through the healing of that, reminding yourself that you are, and you can wave your own flag. Yeah. And then it's the next step of that is mastering how to fly your flag, right?
Yes.
Because that's a whole nother game you can play, because then it's like, well, how much can when I realize that I am divine and perfect, and this is my own unique self that I can be, then you can explore just how much you can be, and you can just kind of like a musician diving into all different musical instruments and even learning to play better and better and better, and how good can they even get, right?
Exactly.
And it's like this whole new realm of possibility opens up when you allow yourself to be your possibility.
So true. From what I don't know if I know that, I don't know the truth of everything, but what I know, it resonates with that. That's my experience as well. Like, once you start trusting who you are, you're going to be more present with whatever your experience has to tell you, and you don't have to, deny yourself the experience in favor of how does it fit into society. So this is often, the path for people that, they want to open up their psychic experiences, or they think it's opening up some circuitry inside of themselves, and sometimes it is, but it's often first needing to know how to be present with your own experience, instead of looking at society and following those rules and denying yourself feeling or knowing who you are. That needs to happen first. You need to pivot that focus back to yourself to be able to be present and to start building a trusting relationship with your own experiences, with your feelings. And then the other parts of our multidimensionalness can come in that are still there. So psychic sensing and seeing, everybody has those. Yeah. But if you're looking away from it, instead of, you think it's on TV, or it's out there instead of it's in here, then you're missing the point. Yeah. And so that stuff can come in, like you said, you can master that. Yeah. And it becomes fun, because when you reach that tipping point from starting to love yourself and trust yourself, you move out of survival. Yeah. You move out of responding to conditions, and instead of trying to do your best to answer them, or to apply yourself to whatever's around you, you then go like, no, wait a minute, I'm here. This was what makes me feel joyful. I'm going to do this. Yeah. This is what I'm going to do. And then you find there's a whole supportive universe that backs you. And it's not because now you're a good girl or a good boy and you're doing what God needs you to do. None of that shit. You're vibrating at self-love. Mm-hmm. And so that is what you manifest. That is how I see the law of attraction works. Yeah.
And then you attract to you the type of people, relationships, experiences that help support that.
Exactly.
Right? And so many times people not only are they afraid to be them or what society thinks, there's also all of this I'm going to leave people behind, or these people were my friends or my it's like you just got to trust that when you move forward, there's a new vibration that meets you.
Yes. Yes. And then hopefully what would happen is wrong making also subsides. Mm-hmm. Because believe me, I get triggered so much. Still, I opened my phone this morning and Twitter sent me a little notification. 82% of the 82% more of the Amazon forest is on fire than last year.
Wow.
Look, so and then it showed you a heat map. It's oh my God, we're being pushed off the planet. How are we going to survive this? So I do get triggered, but then, there is a part of me that kind of reminds me this is still the perfect place for us as souls to come in to learn what we're here to learn, or to experience what we're here to learn, regardless of what kind of circumstances are happening.
Interesting.
But am I worried about that shit? Yeah, so am. Like, I don't want to, think about the people and the animals and the plants, and then also the climatological effects and how it's going to affect us and all the other people and animals on the planet.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah.
It is. And from that perspective of like tapping into all these different other realms and dimensions, like, what is your perspective on that, right? Because I sometimes talk to people and like I waver back and forth, and it sounds like you do a little bit too, but I'm like, a part of me is like, my life's work, and I even want to build all these animal sanctuaries with some of the films I do and different things like that. But like, and so I'm really drawn towards helping and wanting to make the planet better and wanting to protect and wanting to serve. But then when I tap into the really deep spiritual stuff, it's like everything is divine and perfect, right? Yeah. And so then it's like, ooh, and I go back and forth between, okay, I feel like I'm on this mission to help the planet and to help the humanity and animals, and then everything's divine and perfect, so that means everything.
It cancels each other out almost. Yeah. For me, how I navigate that, because I relate to it, but how I navigate it is that I want to do what is joyful to me, so I create space for what brings me joy, and it happens to be helping people and the planet, and that's what brings me joy. And so I'm encountering the conditions, in myself and in other people, and it's in that friction with the limitations that I find joy when there's expansion and healing that happens. So I try to be motivated by joy. And I try, but trying is like the wrong word. I feel joy when I'm doing what I'm doing. And this is what I try to help other people do as well, so they can enjoy the ride for as long as it lasts, because, I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, we don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. But hopefully I don't watch much TV, but I got into that TV show, the Orval. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay, it's like
the Orval?
The Orval, yeah. Oh. It like takes place maybe like 50 years in the future or something, I don't know, and they're an explorer spaceship that goes around to all the different galaxies in the universe, and so there's all these different interdimensional beings that are on the spacecraft together, from different planets, and they go to different places, kind of like Earth and all these other things, but then the main species are slightly different. They might have one might have blue skin, one might be like a little like this or whatever, but it's so well written.
I love shows like that.
But it just makes me think like, well, maybe we'll get to that point and we can just ride around on these spacecrafts, and they do even like the humans or the other beings that live on the different planets will go on like their vacation cruises or through the galaxy. Right. Yeah, so, that'd be fun. Instead of going to Palm Springs, we're gonna go to like Orion or the Pleiades. Yeah. No, that's it. For the weekend. Yeah. No, like one of the doctors on the ship, she took her 2 boys and they were going to go to like it's a planet that's made for vacation.
Nice.
But anyways, so it made me think like, that there's got to be other life out there, and there's got to be other planets and different things that go on.
I mean, of course. During sessions we talk to beings from different places, different times, and it's teeming with life. Maybe not as much on the 3D as we think, but on different levels of a different dimension, it's teeming with life everywhere. Yeah, it's amazing. Well, what else would you like to share before we wrap up? What would I like to share? I find it such a hard question, because for me all this stuff is so normal. And so I was like, just another day,
Okay. Well, how about this? What is one thing that you really want people to understand most about past life regression and how it is healing?
That it can really turn you on to maybe both. Onto connecting with your essence, with your core, with your purpose, with your soul's expression onto the planet. You know, it can really unlock that for you. Yeah. And hopefully that's possible for everybody. But yeah, I think that is a great potential of doing this work. This is what makes me feel joyful about it. Yeah, when I see people like get it. And,
like something clicks and they're forever being changed because they're having an awareness that is such a different perspective that they can't look at things the same.
Yes.
Right? It's like a child finding out that Santa Claus isn't real, and then they can't ever look at Christmas the same, right?
Right.
It's like that.
It's not quite as disenchanting, but yeah.
No, but this is the opposite. This is finding more enchantment. Yes. So it would be like the opposite, you know, right. You know, finding out that the tooth fairy is real. Right.
Exactly.
Like, wow, there's fairies,
right.
You know? Like,
and they really are real, by the way, everybody listening. Yeah, fairies are real. You know, these legendary creatures that we've heard of, Atlantis, Lemuria, all that stuff is real.
Yeah.
From my work, you know, this is what I encounter. Yeah. So rejoice. Yeah.
Amazing. And where can people find you?
So I work in person only in the Valley, San Fernando Valley area of Los Angeles. It's called Valley Village. I have my office there. And so you can connect with me on Instagram. It's the best way. Hello, Instagram live watchers. So Instagram, my Instagram handle is my name, which is JEROEN, and then my affirmation, ISLOVE, is love. Or my website, it's my first name, JEROENQHHT.com. That's
perfect. And we'll put those both down there so they'll be hyperlinked for you.
Thank you.
Then, of course,
come see me here.
Once a month here in a group one, you know? Yes. So you can try out the group and then you can try to get on his wait list, but he's like booked out 3 months in advance. So make sure that, you know, you come to the group one and then you get your name on right away on that wait list so that you can get a private session if you do want one.
Yeah.
And
there's so much fun. And so normally I'm here at Liberate every third Thursday of the month, between 7 and 8, except for September.
We're doing it September 12th. So if you're seeing this before September 12th, that's the one that it's going to be this week. We switched the 3rd and the 2nd around for that month only. But otherwise, 3rd Thursday, always check out our calendar and you can find the date.
Thank you.
Maybe we can try to get them here a little bit more often again. We'll see. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this conversation, like it, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you want some more amazing resources on your path of liberation, head over to liberateyourself.com and sign up for our mailing list. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram at Liberate Hollywood, all one word, or Liberate Emporium, all one word. Until next time, liberate yourself.
If you're thinking that you want to take that action step, why wait? Book your session right now. Go to liberateyourself.com, click on either Liberate Hollywood or Liberate Emporium, see our amazing practitioners and who resonates most with you. And then book a session via Skype, phone, or in person. We're here for you, and it's your time to start creating your life.